The proposals in Lisbon, for example, crushed the right of any member state to have an independent foreign policy from what was agreed by the majority. Every member state would be obliged to publicly support at the United Nations and everywhere else whatever was agreed by a majority. Lisbon called for EU embassies, diplomatic missions around the world, formalised the position of foreign minister, proposed an EU president to be elected by the prime ministers for a 2.5 and possibly a 5-year period to also represent the EU abroad. Lisbon demanded that all member states extend their military capabilities, put the European Defence Agency, which coordinates the EU armaments industries, into the treaty as a formal part of the European Union. And Lisbon demands more research and more technological development of the EU armaments industry. In other words, more resources into creating a war machine into weapons of mass destruction. And therefore, comrades, it's quite clear what Lisbon does through these new changes. Lisbon represents the global ambitions of the EU bourgeois, and particularly of the more powerful member states. And with the EU now as a very powerful capitalist bloc with 500 million people, it's quite clear that the EU establishment wishes to go onto the world stage as a major capitalist power to rival the United States, to rival China, in the jockeying over the next decade or two for markets, for raw materials and for political influence. And the Yes side and the Social Democracy and the Labour Party tried to portray this as a project for peace. We, by contrast, said this is a project for wars of the future, for the EU to have the ability to intervene abroad in the fundamental interest of the EU, i.e. of the EU big business. And we pointed out how it was not that it was not over the top to say that an Iraq-like intervention could eventually come about with this type of machinery. And incidentally, it's 15 of the 27 member states had troops in Iraq at some stage since the invasion and occupation. Therefore, comrades, Lisbon is crucial, are central to the EU establishment plans going into the future. And it was not just a tidying up exercise to make it a little bit more efficient, which is what the Irish government tried initially to say. And that is why there was such fury, such anger in Brussels among the EU elite when the Irish vote derailed the train for the moment. So finally, comrades, we are therefore, we're going into a period in Ireland, and I think to some extent this will be mirrored in Europe, where the combination of the Lisbon debate and the future direction of the European Union, that will combine with the developing economic crisis, which means that you can have a much more sharp and class-conscious debate with much greater possibilities for the ideas of the CWI, both in Ireland and very possibly in other countries as well.
Och jag tror att vi kommer se nu på Irland och kanske även i hela EU hur att det kommer bli en ökad diskussion om Lissabonfördraget eller EUs framtida utveckling i kombination med en utveckling av en ekonomisk kris, vilket gör att det kommer bli en mer skarp och mer klassmedveten debatt, vilket kommer att öka möjligheterna för CVI i de länder där vi finns.
Well, that's our assessment of the situation up to now, and I think we have an hour or so for a debate, and I'll be happy to answer any questions or more information that the comrades might want.
Och det här är ungefär vad vi liksom har som slutsats av hur situationen är idag. Nu har vi en timme på oss för debatt, frågor och inlägg om det här.
Thank you.